Hi, everyone. We're here today with Easter Seals. We've got Victor here. He's going to talk to us about how you can work with your child through imaginative play.
Hi, once again, I'm Victor. Thank you for introducing me. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about play, importance of play, and how it all ties into development and learning, right? So first and foremost, I do want to thank everybody for being here with us. You could have been anywhere in the World Wide Web, right? And you're here with us. So thank you very much for giving us a little bit about your time. And we're happy to be here. This is actually not the first Early Explorers workshop that I attend. I remember last year we were invited by the Harlingen Public Library to attend one of our workshops, and it was really fun. For those of you that might have been there, there was different activities set up in a large room at the library where the children got to explore, got to play, got to paint, got to build puzzles, and just run around and be kids, right? And this is all very fun and games, right, for kids, but little do they know that they're learning, right? So as parents, you might think that children are just being kids, right? And they are. We remember that for children, the primary task for them is play, right? That's how they have fun. That's how they entertain themselves, and that's how ultimately learn, right? Young children play for the pleasure and satisfaction of the activity itself, but it's way more than that. Okay. We all know that it is more important that is a primary process through which children learn and develop. When we think of newborns, we think of babies, infants, right? Children begin to build abilities early on through their senses, through building that attachment with the caregivers, with the parents. And as children begin to play with caregivers and figure out the world on their own, with the caregivers' help, children begin to learn, right? So we see this starts very, very early on. So I do want to take some time to talk a little bit about the importance of play, right? So as we said, play starts very early. Uh, as soon as infants are born, they begin to observing their bodies and the world around them. You know, each new skill like reaching, grasping, babbling, patting, banging, crawling and climbing and walking is all an opportunity for sensory motor practice, right? And we gotta ensure that we give our children this opportunity to practice, right? So we look at the first 18 months, right? The first year and a half of a child's life. What's going on, right? So babies' play consists mostly of repeating new sensory experiences, new things that they've learned, right? So they might grab a toy and drop it, you know, learning cause and effect. They might, you know, play endless minutes or hours, you know, with peekaboo because they like it. It's something new for them, right? And all these experiences causes their brain still connections to multiply and become more efficient, right? So in our brain, we're making these connections and we're insulating them through a process called myelination to help the brain develop and make those connections and establish those new connections and learn, right, and grow. So when we interact in a nurturing and loving way with our infants, you know, that intimacy and sense of safety that the baby feels builds that secure attachment. And that's what a child needs to ensure that they're gonna have a curiosity, right, to learn that fundamentals of learning, right? How that curiosity want to know how things work, how to figure their world out, right? And that's what we want to see. Then around 18 months, we start to see a change. For you parents who have maybe 2-year-olds, you might see a little bit of changes in there, right? But we start to see a change in how children play as well, right? Maybe they engage in more of a symbolic play, which marks the beginning of a representational thought. So what does this mean, right? This means when we see a child hold maybe a banana or a pencil and use it like a telephone, right? Maybe they pretend to be mommy and daddy, and you know they're being caregivers for their doll or you know stuffed teddy bear. These are all types of play, and usually we start seeing this around 18 months, but it doesn't really peak till 3 to 5 years of age. Okay, so I want you to take that into consideration. Um, we talked a little bit about representational thought, right? What does this mean? This means that that's an intellectual ability that for the child to picture something in their mind, right? Now they can see, they can imagine, they can make those thoughts, even if they don't have something present, they're representing it in their mind, right? And that's a big cognitive advancement at this age, right? And around this age group, toddlers begin to enjoy also constructive play. And we see this, right? Especially If kids like to play with blocks, with Legos, using materials such as Play-Doh and paper to create something, right? Just a bit the one of the easiest activities, scribbling, right? Scribbling at this age group, they're not worried about staying in the line, staying in the paper. We might see even scribbles on the wall, on the floor where they shouldn't go, but they're learning, right? So we need to ensure to teach our child to spend that time and show our child that, writing and scribbling goes on paper. So this is when we start seeing a lot of this growth. All right. And then we go on to see, we start to see objects become something else at this age group, right? A baking pan can be a castle. A dog can even have dinosaur puppies. This process of transforming object is called non-literal play, right? And a very important aspect because we're using our imagination, right? We're using that development in our brain to imagine and to play. Okay, so very important aspect of play. And what do all this have to do with imitation, right? So imitation play is something that goes on through all these stages, but we can see a lot of benefit at the early ages, right? Maybe at infancy, under those 12 months, but it continues through the toddler years, right? During all these types of style we play, we see what we call an imitation play. We see that both infants and toddlers make up their own game, right? Most of it consists of this imitation play. For example, one child will start an action like running from one side of the room to the other, and another child will see him and start doing maybe the same thing, right? During this type of play, we see the children are laughing, maybe they're watching each other and having fun. One child might emerge as a leader in these games, and at other times roles will switch, right? And we'll talk a little bit about this style of play, right? There's really no rules here. It's just having fun, copying what we're doing. There might be a leader, and they might, choose what to do next. But at this moment, with this style of play, there's not really a rules, a winner, right, or a loser. And we'll talk a little bit about that, right? So you might ask yourself, well, what about imitation play makes it so important, right? It's very important at an early age, especially in infancy, when we imitate what the child is doing, right? We teach them how to play more than anything. We want to imitate sounds, if the baby, sorry, is saying mama, 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 right? We say mama, right? Or da, 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 we say da, da, right? So we're teaching them the appropriate word that the child is trying to say, right? Facial expressions, right? So maybe when we read a story, and I know the toddler story time is very expressive, right? So we might say, and the little boy was sad, right? And use a sad face, use a big smile when we're talking about happy events, right? When we're thinking about positive experiences, we use those facial expressions, right? And we use our words to define what we're doing, to define how we're playing, right? So, for example, if we have a red block and the child is putting the red block on the blue block, mom or dad or caregiver can say, wow, you're putting your red block on top of your blue block, right? And we might even imitate by doing the same thing, getting a red block and putting on top of another block as well, right? We're teaching them how to take turns, social turn taking, which can be very, very, very difficult at this age because children are not equipped to share. They are centered around themselves, right? They're becoming their own little person. And we see this change around 18 months, right? And that's when we hear the terrible twos. Well, the terrible twos are when children are becoming independent. They're developing a sense of self, right? They're very self-focused. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to get here. I want to get there, right? And we might see that they begin to say no, right? No, come do this. No, come pick this up. No, come play with me. No, because it has to do with development, right? The child is becoming independent. He no longer requires the caregiver's full attention. Yes, the child can do more things on his or her own, right? So very good. Let's move on to encouraging imitation, right? Skills. Why should we encourage imitation skills, right? So imitation skills for your child help develop cognitive, language, and social skills, right? To prepare to learn from others. What do we see when children maybe begin to have play dates, right, with other children? Some children are very good at going and interacting with other kids, but we might see parallel play, which is very common in children, right? We might have a child sit next to a child, not playing directly, but playing individually, sitting next to each other, right? And that's called parallel play, and that's part of teaching the social skills, right, and how to play. And that's when all this imitation play that we do with the children comes into play. They know how to uh, interact and socialize in this setting because we've taken time to help our child and guide our child and turn taking and imitation, right? So um, going back to what we talked about games, right? There are no really rules when we're imitating, when we're practicing imitation play, because children at this age shouldn't have many rules, right? They should have that unstructured play, and we see that maybe a game for them is defined as an activity engaged in just for diversion or amusement, right? But we as adults, or maybe even older children, maybe teenagers, or even children in a school setting, might think as a physical or mental competition conducted according to rules, with participants in a direct, opposition to each other, having a winner and a loser, and requiring more strategy and rules, right? And we kind of want to stay away from that at this age. Why? Because we want them to feel to develop that social interaction, to not feel left out, not to feel humiliated, right? And we want to ensure that we're teaching them how to be a leader, right? When we practice imitation play, we should let the child lead, right? And take turns leading. Maybe we copy what they're doing. We allow the child to switch activities if the child wants to. We can follow what their lead, right? This teaches them to be a leader. And of course, they'll utilize that in their life, in school, and as they grow older, right? For babies and toddlers, we talk about games, right? And they should be developmentally appropriate so they can foster that development, right? What they're working on. Children should gain self-confidence and improve problem-solving skills through these games, right? For infants and toddlers, the goal should be used to use common resources and cooperation, right? The idea of a winner or a loser is not ideal at this age. A child should not be humiliated or rejected for playing a game the right way, right? So we need to ensure that we give our children ample time to just play and not so many rules, right? All right, so how do we practice imitation play, right? And this is a very, very straightforward answer. How can we practice imitation play? We just sit together and play together, right? Easy as that. Let your child be the leader. Talk about what you're doing. Talk about what your child is doing, right? Describe those actions. Show your child the toys, right? Whether you're using maybe blocks, a ball, cars, or a doll. Uh, you can show him how to play with it and help him develop his own play, right? The child is learning from us, but we also want to allow them to take the lead. We want them to follow what the child is doing, and we describe what he or she is doing as she's doing it, right? We kind of become like a narrator, right? um, and describe what you're doing, right? There's no right or wrong way to play. We're just practicing playing together and we're imitating each other, right? Another great way to practice imitation play, right? Can you touch your face? Can you show me your hands, right? And they'll do as we do, right? So great ways, easy ways, and very cost effective. Children can play with Tupperware and they'll be happy. We just gotta ensure that the toys are appropriate for their age, right? No hazards, and anything can be a toy, right? And what do we work on maybe when we're doing activity like block play, playing with a ball, playing, stacking cups or anything like that? Well, we're working for sure on motor development, right? We get to develop that fine motor and gross motor skills as they, throw a ball, as they build a tower, as they stack one or two blocks, right? Or even putting blocks in a line is a challenge for children, right? And of course, social emotional development. When your child is the leader in play, it enhances their emotional development and builds their self-esteem, right? Feeling of self-worth and self-confidence. Your child is learning how to take turns, how to initiate play, how to be a leader. And that's why we focus on imitation play and play all together, okay? So that is all I have prepared for today. I did want to share some resources, and I'll share my screen with Aaron and with you as well. And these are just three websites that we can go to whenever we need maybe ideas, we need information, or we would like to learn more, right? So 0 to 3 is a great website that offers information on the first 3 years of life, as they are very crucial and very important. Helpandhope.org, they offer a lot of tips, right? A lot of tips regarding development, regarding discipline, regarding behavior, not just for kids, but older children as well. And a lot of useful information on managing stress, on coping, and utilizing these skills to help our children, right? And of course, pbskids.org is a great website uh, to learn, to practice with especially older kids, maybe educational games, watch educational shows, of course, and these are free, available to the public, that can be accessed at any time, okay? All right, so to one last thing is a video from that 0 to 3.org webpage that kind of just ties everything together, and I would like to share it with you now. So let me go ahead and do that. It should be about maybe 4 minutes long. Um, and let me pull it up in a second. Okay, here we go. Is the audio okay, Erin?
I'm not hearing anything. Is there
Okay,
a button you could click for captions, maybe?
Is that better?
Still not hearing anything.
Not hearing. Okay, so I'll just copy the link and I'll share it
Okay.
I'll put it on the resource so you guys can, of course, see it. And then let me see. Okay, so this will be the last video that I wanted to share with you. Having some problems with audio for sure, but if of course you can go to 0 to 3 and look for play, or you can just type this in directly into your search bar and it should take you there. It's a very good 5-minute video that talks about imitation play, and how beneficial play is to children and the different styles of play that that we see at the different age groups. Okay. So, Erin, that is all I have for you today. Is there any questions that you might have?
You know, I think everybody is kind of stuck at home all day, every day now, and they're maybe getting a little burned out on some of their kids' favorite games. Do you have any maybe advice on how parents can make the moments they're engaging and playing with their kids really count, even if they are not enjoying, you know, playing with cars for the 5th hour that day or whatever?
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I think, you know, as a parent, I think everyone has to set some time aside for not just themselves, but for the children as well, right? And we talk a lot about the quality and the quantity of time, right? We want to ensure that the quality of time, whatever hours they might be, is more important than the quantity of time, right? So let's say we have work to do. We have to, if we're working from home, if we're still going out, you know, we still have to dedicate our time to our children, because that's, you know, being a parent and trying to teach them and engage with them, right? Even though times might be stressful, we want to ensure that we dedicate some time to play with our children. And of course, we want it to be quality time, right? So we want to ensure to invest ourselves in whether it be 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes of play with our children, and that we're fully invested. We can practice new activities. We can practice maybe playing with Tupperware, where recyclable, not recyclable, disposable cups. We can even do maybe a tub of water, right? Let's sit outside in the yard, or, you know, let's lay down a towel and play with your toys in the water. A small container, a little bit of water, tons of fun, tons of time, you know, for the children to play. and just or just enjoy the time being, right? It's not like we have many opportunities like this to spend with the family. Of course, it can be very stressful due to the situation, employment, continuing to work from home, adjusting, right? And more than anything, it is an adjustment for everyone, including our family. So be creative, you know, bring out the Tupperware, stack some cans, bring out the bubbles, make your own bubbles, right? Try what recipe works best. You could practice using dish soap, water, sugar, you know, anything that's gonna help you and your child maybe blow off some steam. You know, bubbles are a great opportunity to go in the backyard and you know, and blow some bubbles and seeing them go in the wind, right? Be creative. These websites have a lot of information that we can utilize on activities and also on different ways to learn and to ensure that we're offering that nurturing relationship to our children.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Victor. It was great to have you speak with us today.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye.
Likewise.